Hello students, welcome to the English class. Today I am going to begin with the explanation of the chapter Packing, which is the 7th chapter of your book Beehive and is written by Jerome K. Jerome. So before beginning the chapter, I am going to give you a brief introduction of the author Jerome Klapka Jerome or Jerome K. Jerome. So, for this author, I must tell you that he is a British writer of the Victorian period and is best known for his comic novels. His most famous and enduring work is Three Men in a Boat. Jerome Klapka Jerome was born in the village of Cladmore near Birmingham in central England. Jerome's father was an ironmonger and a non-conformist preacher. And the family enjoyed a middle class lifestyle for many years, although a series of bad investments forced them into poverty when Jerome was 2 years old. And because of this, the family had to leave their house, and Jerome spent his childhood as a poor boy. Then, despite of these difficult circumstances, Jerome developed a passion for literature, politics, and the theatre. In his late teens and 20s, he had a variety of jobs, including acting, journalism, and teaching school. He was not particularly successful at any of these occupations. Jerome finally broke through creativity in 1885 when he published a memoir about his time working for a low budget theatre troupe, and he then began to publish comedic essays in a magazine called Home Chimes. Then he married to his wife Georgina in the year 1888, and their trip to Thames inspired his most successful work, Three Men in a Boat, which was serialized in Home Chimes in 1889. Although Three Men in a Boat was poorly received by critics, it was immensely popular among readers of all social classes. And the royalties from the book ensured Jerome's financial freedom for the rest of his life, and he devoted himself to writing full time, although he remained critically unpopular and his later works sold inconsistently. Jerome published a sequel to Three Men in a Boat called Three Men on the Bummel in 1898, and it garnered mixed reviews and mediocre sales. Then when the World War I broke out in 1914, Jerome was eager to contribute to the war effort because he was too old to join the British military, and he drove an ambulance for the French throughout the war. He returned to England traumatized and was further psychologically damaged by the death of his beloved stepdaughter Elsie. And Jerome wrote an autobiography in 1926 and died in 1927 of a stroke. This was about the author. Now I'll tell you what is there in this chapter by giving you a brief introduction. So, this chapter Packing is an extract from Jerome K. Jerome's novel Three Men in a Boat, and this is a humorous extract about the confusion and mess created by people who are inexperienced in the art of packing. It exposes the utter clumsiness of the three friends, that is Jerome, George, and Harris, as you can see in the picture. They consider themselves to be skilled in the art of packing, but in reality, all of them have very little knowledge about working in an organized manner. Hence, to the great amusement of the reader, the small job of packing is carried out by them with many a jerk and jolt. Now, let us discuss the theme of this chapter. This chapter Packing is based on the theme that routine tasks are not as easy as they seem to be, and the humorous account amuses the readers with the chaotic and confusing situations created by the clumsiness of three friends all of whom consider packing to be child's play. So now let us discuss about the characters. The first main character is Jerome. For Jerome, I must tell you that he is the narrator of the story, and the entire gamut of events are depicted from his point of view. He is overconfident and rates his packing skill a bit too high, and he is also an arrogant and expects his friends to carry out the tedious part of packing while he sits back and passes orders. And his friends, however, do not take him seriously, and finally he has to struggle while trying to pack the bag. Then another character is George and Harris. George and Harris are friends of the narrator Jerome, and both of them are as clumsy, ill organized, forgetful, and casual as Jerome. They commit mistakes even while doing ordinary tasks and keep repeating their mistakes. Like Jerome, they too are mistaken about the talent to pack stuff and are overconfident and their performance. They are very much overconfident about their performance, and they damage or spoil many things like cups, pies, tomatoes, butter, and lemons while packing the hamper. And the last character is Montmorency, who is the pet dog. Montmorency is the pet dog of three friends, Jerome, George, and Harris. He is a pampered pet and knows no restraints on his behavior. And his animal instinct to probe everything creates a nuisance for the masters. And he likes to be a part of all activities going on in the house and gets excited to see the boys packing things. And he doesn't mind being shouted at and does not even respond when they try to move him away from the packed stuff. He is a super energized pet, and no amount of scolding dampens his enthusiasm. He may be ill trained, temperamental, destructive, and meddlesome, but he is loved by the readers as much as his masters. And his presence in the story makes it more interesting and amusing. So these were the characters. Now let's begin with the explanation of the chapter. Now let's begin with the explanation, reading and explanation of the chapter. So before beginning, I would like to ask you a few questions. That students, tell me, do you all like to going on trips? And if you like, then what kind of trips you enjoy the most? And I know that many of you would say yes, you like to go on trips. And the trips, what kind of trips? Obviously you might be like you liking to go to the places outside our city, Jabalpur. So now tell me, how do you feel about having to pack for a trip? So have you ever packed anything? What you have to do before starting your packing when you feel or when you want to go outdoors or you want to go out of the city? And tell me, have you ever discovered on a trip that you have forgotten to pack a few things you very much need, or that you can't find them easily? So I know everybody has to make the itinerary of all the things that you require to go to other place, the important things without which you cannot do anything. So first, we all know that we just first make a list of all the things that we require and we have to pack, and then we start packing. But sometimes it happens that we miss the most important thing, and you, how do you feel and how you manage without that thing that you have to tell? And lastly, does this make you angry, or when you just forget anything which you require desperately or which is very important for you, then how you feel, whether you react angrily or you laugh at yourself after finding that you have left the thing or left an article at home. So now let's read in this chapter what happens with the narrator, that is Jerome. He is the narrator and he is citing his own experience of packing. So this chapter begins with the first line, that is, I said I would pack. That means the writer Jerome liked to pack a luggage for trips and announced that he would do the packing. Then further he says, I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. And they fell into the suggestion with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. Uncanny is strange. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked his legs on the table. So first let's see to the meaning of all the hard words in the paragraph. The word or the phrase pride myself on means am proud of. Fell into means accepted. Uncanny means strange or weird, and cocked his legs means bent the legs on the knee as he sat. So in these lines, now the narrator says Jerome says, or he thought that his ability to pack luggage was better than other three friends who were present over there, and he asked his friends George and Harris to leave the task of packing to him. And the two friends agreed to this offer instantly, which was very strange. And George sat comfortably on the easy chair, and Harris bent his knees as he sat on the sofa and kept his feet on the table. Then further, the next line says, this was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions. I pushing them aside every now and then with, oh you, here let me do it. There you are, simple enough, really teaching them, as you might say. Their taking it in the way they did irritated me, and there is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. So this happens with everybody. When you are working, or your mother is packing, or you are packing, you want to order others to get you the things, to provide you the things. So here in the same manner, the narrator Jerome, he wanted to boss over the other two friends Harris and George, but it did not happen, and he only had to make the efforts. He only had to do the packing. So now first see to the hard words, the meaning of all the hard words in the paragraph. The word intended means planned or meant. Then potter about means do something unimportant, do some unimportant things. So in these lines, the narrator, by saying that he would pack, the writer did not mean that his friends would sit and relax while he do all the work. He had meant that he would boss upon them while they would do all the chores, and he would nag them and curse them for not knowing the work well, and he would clip in to sort out the mess that they would create. And it was irritated. He was irritated to see them sitting while he did all the work. So all the things went opposite. What he wanted to do, just to boss, just to order the other two friends to pack the things and to shout at them if they do not do the things properly. So, but this did not happen, and he was irritated to see his friends sitting while he did all the packing work. Then further, the next line, paragraph 3. In paragraph 3, narrator says that I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look on at me messing about. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. And it is my energetic nature. I can't help it. So now in these lines, the phrase loll on the sofa means to recline or lean in a relaxed manner, to sit on the sofa in a very relaxed manner. Messing up means to waste time doing something without a particular purpose, and sit still means sit without doing anything. And superintend means supervise or manage. The word loll means sit or stand lazily. So in these lines now, narrator, he recollects that once he lived with a man who would sit lazily on the sofa all day through and would watch the writer to do all the work, and the man would say that he enjoyed watching him go around doing all the work, and this would make the writer mad with anger. And the writer adds that he could not sit idle and watch others work like slaves. On the other hand, he liked to check their work and walk around with his hands in his pocket and direct them and instruct them on how to do the work properly. And he feels that as he was energetic, it was a part of his nature to behave in that manner. Then further in paragraph 4, narrator says, however, I did not say anything but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. But I got the bag finished at last, and I sat on it and strapped it. Ain't you going to put the boots in? Said Harris. And I looked round and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I got the bag shut and strapped, of course, and George laughed. One of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. So in these lines, the word strapped means closed, wild means mad with anger. So in these lines now, narrator, he did not say anything to his friends and started with the packing. As he closed it, Harris said that he had forgotten to pack the boots, and the writer felt that Harris could have reminded him before he had closed or shut the bag, but he thought that Harris was like that, and this was followed by an irritating laughter by George, which made Jerome wild with anger. Then the next paragraph says, fifth paragraph, I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I've packed my toothbrush. So in these lines, Jerome opened the bag again to keep the boots in it, and as he was about to close it, he was struck by the strange thought whether he had kept the toothbrush or not. And he says that he never remembers if he has packed the toothbrush or not. Further, he says, my toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I'm traveling. Here, haunts means to repeatedly give trouble, and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and get out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So in these lines, the word misery means sad, cold perspiration means sweat, hunt means search. So now Jerome adds that while traveling, he always messes up with carrying his toothbrush, and he has nightmares of not having packed it, wakes up in sweat and looks for it, and in the morning he packs it before using it, then unpacks the bag to get the brush and uses it. So it is again very humorous. It happens with many of us, and as it is the last thing that comes out of the bag and he has repacked the bag, he forgets packing it again, and at last moment he rushes to his room to get the brush, and finally he wraps it in his handkerchief and carries it to the railway station in his hand. So it happens with everybody. The toothbrush is such a thing which many of the times we forget carrying to or pack it in a bag. Then further, the sixth paragraph, narrator says, of course I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created. And when chaos reigned, of course I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So, in these lines, the word mortal things means very every ordinary thing. Rummaged means searched in a hurried or careless way. Chaos is confusion. Reigned is ruled. So, as Jerome was looking for his toothbrush in his bag, he had to remove everything, but he could not find it and he created a mess. He found his friend's brushes many times but could not find his brush, and he kept everything back into the bag one by one, shaking each item, and finally found the brush inside a boot. Then once again he repacked the bag. So we can see that packing is a very tedious task and it is to be done with a person who is good at it. Now in the 7th paragraph the narrator says, when I had finished, George asked if the soap was in, and I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. And I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. I got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours' time, and thought that he and George had better to do the rest, and I agreed and sat down, and they had a go. So in these lines the phrase don't care a hang means show no concern or interest. Slammed means shut the lid forcefully and loudly. Hampers means baskets used to carry food, utensils, etc. So now when Jerome closed the bag, George asked if the soap was there inside. Then as Jerome was impatient, he replied that he wasn't concerned if it was there or not. Closed the lid and strapped the bag. Then he realized that he had packed his spectacle in it too and had to open it again to get them back. And finally the bag was closed at 10:05 p.m. Then they had to pack the food baskets. Harris said that as they were left with less than 12 hours to leave, they should pack the baskets as well. And Harris decided that the food basket would be packed by him and George, and Jerome agreed to take his turn for some rest while his friends packed the baskets. Then the next paragraph, narrator says they began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. I made no comment. I only waited with the expectation of with the exception of George. Harris is the worst packer in this world, and I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that the thing would soon become exciting. So in these lines the phrase light-hearted spirit means to be cheerful, evidently means clearly or obviously. An exception means a person or thing that does not follow the general rule. So George and Harris, they started packing the hampers in a very happy mood, and they wanted to show Jerome that they could pack well. And Jerome waited for them to create a mess because he considered Harris to be the worst packer in the world. And Jerome looked at the piles of plates, cups, kettles, and bottles, the jars, pies, cakes, and tomatoes, which had to be packed into the hampers. And he thought that as the boys would mess up, it would be an interesting thing to watch. So, this is all for today. Now I hope you have understood this chapter up till here, and we'll continue the same chapter in my next class. Thank you and goodbye.